I never expected my parents to secretly move my sister into my apartment while I was away. I still close my eyes and it feels like I relive the moment. That crisp fall afternoon, I opened the door, my heart drumming against my ribs. My breath hitched. The air felt different. Heavy. Something was off. I stepped inside, however, the familiar scent of my garlic candle met me, mixed with something else and unexpected. Sharp tingle of lavender. I paused. My steps faltered as I took it all in. The living room was strangely cluttered. A bright pink blanket was sprawled across my sofa, the kind my sister would hug tightly during movie nights. My chest tightened. I shook my head. I had just left for a short trip. Who could have? No, it couldn't be. The door creaked behind me. I turned and there she stood, my younger sister, Emily, hair wild like shed, just rolled out of bed. But those blue eyes sparkled with a mischievous hint. Surprise! She exclaimed. My pulse raced. Anger bubbled under my skin. Why hadn't anyone told me? The silence of betrayal filled the room. What are you doing here? I choked out, every word strained. It was chaos in my mind. Emily's smirk faded and was replaced with confusion. A visible crack in her confidence. Mom and Dad thought it was a good idea. Then it struck me, Mom and Dad. Blood rushed to my temples. I hadn't even heard from them the whole week. How could they have decided this without me? How could they trust her alone with Mayus? I stepped closer, the room closing in. The walls felt like they were pressing against my soul. Did you even ask me? My voice was a whisper, weaving through the bewildering shock. Emily shrugged. The walls felt like they shifted. Ominous shadows creeping in, swallowing the light. I didn't think it'd be a big deal. The innocence dripped from her words and it burned. How naive. How reckless. I buried my fingers into my hair, trying not to scream. You have no idea what a big deal this is. Tears pricked the edges of my vision. The lump in my throat ached. I didn't want this. Not now. Not ever. We weren't kids anymore. And she didn't need to invade my space like this. My hands trembled and my words stuttered. The air was thick with the unsaid. Heavy with confusion. I wanted answers, clarity, anything but this spiraling chaos. And as I looked deep into her troubled gaze, I felt if betrayal was now mutual. A need to run surged inside me. I just wanted to escape this unexpected storm. But in that moment, enveloped by uncomfortableness, wonder lingered. What if this was more than an accident? What if this was a new beginning for us? I stumbled back, the reality of what my parents had done hitting me like a cold wave. The floor felt unsteady beneath my feet. Why? I asked again. Before she could respond, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen, freezing us both. My heart stopped. Who was there? The world around me spun. And in an instant I was no longer just mad. I was terrified. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The crash was followed by a moment of tense silence, a void that stretched between us, taut as a bowstring ready to snap. I met Emily's eyes wide, alarmed, and felt the sharp pull of panic tightening around my chest. Her presence, so familiar yet invasive, suddenly felt like an anchor dragging me deeper into uncharted waters. Stay here, I murmured, my voice barely a whisper as I edged toward the kitchen. The very idea of an intruder sent cold shivers racing down my spine. The soft clang of metal hitting the floor startled me again. I held my breath, squaring my shoulders, prepared to confront whatever lay ahead. Peering around the corner into the kitchen, I felt the rush of a wave seeking comfort from the sun-dappled window, the familiar clattering of pans, the scattered remnants of a hasty meal. And then amidst the chaos I saw him, Charlie, my elderly neighbor, clutching a frying pan, his eyes wide with surprise. "Ahai?" he exclaimed sheepishly, a sheepish grin breaking through his palpable embarrassment. "I was just bringing over your lasagna, Charlie." I blinked, confusion mixing with disbelief. "What are you doing?" "In my kitchen. I thought you'd appreciate a good meal." Figured you might be too busy to cook, so I wanted to help out. He gestured awkwardly with the frying pan, as if it were an offering. Wouldn't want you to starve, right? Emotion welled up inside me at his unexpected kindness. It was a fleeting warmth in the midst of a hurricane. A reminder that the world could still be steeped in goodness, even during a storm of betrayal. I felt my shoulders drop, the tightness in my chest easing, if only for a moment. Thanks, but... I glanced back at Emily, who stood hesitantly by the doorway, caught in the crossfire of confusion and hurt. Charlie's gaze followed mine, and he took note of the palpable tension. Is everything all right? I can come back later. No, it's fine, I replied, forcing a smile, wanting desperately to ease the tension but knowing the truth was far from fine. Just, some surprises today. He nodded, partially understanding, and began to retreat down the hallway. Well, if you need any help, thanks, Charlie. You're the best, I called out, my heart flipping in grateful recognition of his uncomplicated friendship. I watched him shuffle away, feeling a flicker of hope in how unexpected kindness had somehow flared momentarily in this whirlpool of chaos. Turning back to Emily, I found her still standing in the living room, eyes searching. What the hell just happened? She asked, her voice both bewildered and a little lighter, softening the sharp edges of our previous argument. I thought it was an intruder, I replied, feeling the tension begin to dissipate slightly in her presence, though the unease still lingered between us. I just wanted to know what was going on. The lasagna, she leaned against the wall, arms crossed, sounds good. Charlie's sweet like that. I nodded, allowing a moment of stillness, a brief chance to reconnect amidst the storm. Do you really think this is a good idea? My voice became fragile, weighed down by unspoken fears. Us living together under these circumstances? Emily bit her lip, uncertainty swimming in her blue eyes. I didn't want to be alone anymore. I thought maybe we could be like we were when we were kids. Not just neighbors but sisters again. Sisters. The word hit a tender chord within me. A long-buried longing to rewind time. To revisit the innocent moments that were lost amidst the noise of our adult lives. But reality was insistent, and the memories of our fractured relationship clawed at my heart. It's not that simple, I replied, my voice harsher than I intended. No, I get it. I really do. Emily took a step closer, her eyes reflecting a glint of vulnerability. But I just thought if we were together, just maybe we could try again. The sincerity in her voice unsettled me, igniting a battle between my heart and my head. Hope fought against stubborn reluctance, and I didn't know which side I truly wanted to win. Then came a knock at the door, a firm insistence that reverberated in the air. I barely had time to process it all before Emily shot me a quick glance. Should I get it? No, I blurted, panic rising anew. The world felt heavier again, impenetrable. Let me see who it is. I approached the door, my heart thundering in my chest. Each knock echoed through the silence, sending tendrils of fear coiling around my thoughts. Did my parents send someone? Was it more bad news? I hesitated, my mind racing. With shaky hands I grasped the doorknob, bracing myself for the unknown. As I opened the door, my breath caught in my throat. Standing on the other side with a determined expression was someone I never anticipated to see again, Maya. My childhood friend. The one who had vanished from my life without a trace 5 years ago. Hi, she said simply, her gaze intense yet cautious. I need to talk to you. The past loomed behind her, an uninvited shadow that wrapped around me. And as I took in the gravity of her presence, I knew I was standing on the precipice of chaos. Tides were changing, and the storm hadn't even begun to break. The moment Maya stepped over the threshold, the air thickened like a heavy fog. There stood a ghost from my past, her familiar yet foreign presence sparking 1,000 unresolved questions, each one sharper than the last. Is this a bad time? She asked, glancing nervously toward Emily, whose expression oscillated between disbelief and curiosity. It's complicated, I managed, feeling as though the ground had shifted beneath my feet. What are you doing here, Maya? I know this is sudden, she began, wrapping her arms around herself as if to ward off both the chill of the room and the apprehension looming in the space between us. But I really need to explain. Can we talk? Sure, I said, but unease twisted my insides. The last time I had seen Maya, things had ended on a note I never thought could be repaired, a disagreement over dreams, choices, paths taken that drove us apart. How did you even find me? Charlie, she said, nodding toward the hallway. He mentioned you were back in town. I've been wanting to reach out, but her voice trailed off, and I could see her trying to rein in a tumult of emotions that mirrored my own. I didn't expect to see you again. I stepped aside, motioning for her to enter, more out of courtesy than eagerness. Emily's here too, by the way. We're figuring things out. Maya offered a quick glance at Emily, unnerving the fragile truce we had just forged moments ago. I motioned for her to come inside, watching as her gaze darted briefly to the lasagna nestled on the kitchen counter, and then landed back on me. So much has changed, she said, hesitation hanging in her words as she took a tentative step forwards. I don't even know where to begin. Maybe start with why you disappeared from my life? I challenged, surprising myself with the irritation lacing my voice. You left without a word, Maya. You were one of my closest friends. She stopped, her eyes clouding with pain. I was scared of who I was becoming and the choices I had to make. It wasn't easy for me, and I thought by cutting everyone out I could figure everything out. But I made mistakes and I'm sorry. I didn't want you to think I chose my future over you. Pain and nostalgia danced in the air, reminding me of all those late-night talks we had shared on the roof, the laughter we exchanged under the stars, and the weight of our childhood dreams. As I listened, I felt the barrier I had built against her start to weaken, suffocated by the price of our shared history. I just wanted you to know I've been working on myself, she continued, her sincerity brushing against my defenses. And I miss you. I want to try to mend things for real this time. Behind her, Emily shifted uneasily, evidently hurt by Maya's unexpected arrival and the fervent memories she sparked. The tension in the room thickened again, my heart pulled in opposing directions toward familiarity and nostalgia on one side, and unresolved hurt on the other. Listen, Maya. There's a lot that's happened since you left, I said, slowly, conflicted. And I don't know if I can reopen this door so easily. Please, Maya urged, her voice cracking softly. Just give me a chance. I know I can't erase the past, but let me show you I've changed. Let me earn back your trust. Before I could respond, Emily interjected, her voice carrying an edge I hadn't heard before. What does that even mean for us, though? What do you want from her? Are we supposed to just forgive and forget? Maya, I said, casting a quick glance at Emily, feeling the tension snap back into place. It's complicated right now. Nothing is simple in our lives anymore. With a sigh, Maya bowed her head, her long blonde hair falling like a curtain between us. For just a moment, the regret hung heavy, and I felt a mixture of anger and empathy simmering just below the surface. Maybe I shouldn't have come back, she murmured, her voice nearly breaking under the weight of our shared past. But I need you to know something. While I was away, I found out about something that shook my whole world. What are you talking about? My heart raced at the seriousness in her tone. I was in touch with your parents. My breath caught in my throat. What? Why? Because there's something they haven't told you, she continued, stepping closer, filling the space between us with urgency. And I can't keep pretending it doesn't exist. There's something they've been hiding about Emily. The air turned icy, time fleeting yet suspended. Emily's eyes widened in shock, mirroring the swell of dread that washed over me. And I knew I had stepped once again into a storm. The impulse to retreat wrestled with the need to know the truth. And the question echoed in my mind, unbidden and potent: what could possibly make this already complicated life even more tangled? The room felt as though it had imploded, collapsing under the weight of Maya's revelation. I could barely process her words. A knot twisted in my gut, the feeling of betrayal tightening around my heart. What do you mean? What could my parents possibly have to hide about Emily? My voice trembled, full of disbelief and a rising storm of emotions. Maya glanced nervously towards Emily. I think you should sit down. The urgency in her tone forced me to comply, though my mind raced with question after question. I felt hardly capable of hearing the truth, yet the fear of ignorance loomed larger than my apprehension. I motioned for Emily to join me at the kitchen table, where the remnants of our earlier meal sat untouched, now rendered irrelevant. Maya, please just tell us, I said, my patience fraying with each reluctant breath she took. She took a deep breath, her eyes locking onto mine, determined yet vulnerable. I found out through some old letters and conversations. Your parents were struggling with, things that were happening when you were gone. They mentioned not wanting to tell you, not wanting to upset the fragile balance you'd both created since moving back. Struggling with what? Emily probed, her voice steady but laced with fear. Your mother had some health issues she didn't want you to worry about, Maya explained, glancing at me before continuing, and it seems there were discussions about Emily needing a place to stay. She wasn't safe at home. A sharp pang of confusion pierced my chest. Why didn't she come to me? I shot back defensively, my gaze darting to Emily, who wore a mask of disbelief and hurt at the suggestion. She thought you were in a precarious situation yourself, Maya replied gently, almost pleadingly. She thought you'd be better off without the burden of worrying about more than your own adjustments. But your parents decided to take matters into their hands. Silence swallowed the kitchen. Emily's eyes flickered with a mix of confusion, hurt, and accusation. What do you mean by that? She asked sharply, her voice edged with betrayal. Did they turn me into a secret project? No, of course not, Maya said quickly, desperation wrapping around her words as she reached out toward Emily, only to stop short, half fearing a rejection. They were trying to protect you both, but it spiraled. I know it sounds unnatural, but your parents thought they were helping. I could see Emily grappling with the revelation, with the eroding sense of control she had clung to since I returned. She turned toward the window, the afternoon sun casting a golden glow in the bitterness of our conversation, trying to grasp the irony of the situation. The very family that brought us together also held the threads of this divide. Maya, I tentatively asked, how did you end up being the one to find all this out? I kept my distance but saw your family through Charlie. Over time I learned things that made me feel I needed to step back in. Whether you wanted me to or not, she admitted, her vulnerability emerging like a soft light in the dark room. And then I witnessed how close you and Emily were getting, and just something needed to change before it all shattered. A flicker of warmth glinted in her eyes, yet it was layered by an unshakable weight of guilt. And if I'm being honest, I didn't come here only to expose your parents. I was scared too. The more I learned about you, about Emily, the more I felt I needed to reconnect, to be part of both your lives again. Do my parents even know you're here? I asked, my head spinning with indignation and concern. She shook her head slowly. No, and I'm not sure how they'd react if I told them I finally came back. But I had to at least let you both know. The room's tension could have been cut with a knife. Emily stood rooted, her breath shaking, a maelstrom of emotions surging beneath the surface. So you want us to be one big happy family again after all this? The bitterness in her tone tangled with sarcasm. Maya didn't mean it like that, I interjected, feeling the walls of frustration closing in. None of us asked for this. I know, Emily said softly, her voice trembling. But all I wanted was to feel safe. To have you back. And now I find out there are secrets and lies twisting around us. I'm not sure I can trust anyone. As she uttered those words, I felt something crack inside me. A chasm opening between the past I tried so hard to protect, and the future that felt increasingly ambiguous. Even if things didn't return to normal, how could we move forward when the foundation beneath us was crumbling? The very roots connecting us felt false and frayed. Emily, I whispered, stretching my hand toward her, the plea in my eyes pleading for her recognition. But she stepped back abruptly, her defenses locked tight, clings of heartbreak echoing in our quiet environment. Just as the air swelled with heavy silence, Maya interjected, her voice hardly more than a whisper. You both need to know I didn't just come back to stir the pot. If I can take the first step towards truth, so can you. Her words hung in the air, a fragile glimmer of hope, yet the fear shadowing the room cast the flicker into doubt. In that moment, as uncertainty shrouded us, the doorbell rang, a startling intrusion that rattled my trepidation. Without thinking, I stood up and made my way to the door, the unease crawling intensely in my veins. Opening it, the figure before us left me breathless and all air caught in my throat, a figure I hadn't seen in years, whose presence blurred the lines of past and present, sending ripples through the fragile resolution we had hoped to find. The door creaked open slowly, revealing an older man whose face was both familiar and foreign. My heart raced as I took him in, me father, but years seemed to etch themselves into the lines on his forehead, the silver threading through his hair speaking volumes of unspoken burdens. Dad! My voice barely crossed the threshold of disbelief. Behind me, Maya's eyes widened and Emily stood still, her breath hitching uncontrollably. An overwhelming rush of emotions collided within the cramped space, the fear of confrontation, the desperate ache for answers and a brittle hope that somehow, this moment could stitch the frayed edges of our lives back together. He nodded slowly, eyes casting downward as if the truth he carried with him weighed too heavy to lift. "No, it's a surprise to see me," he finally said, his voice trembling along with the creased lines of his brow. "Can I come in?" I stood frozen for a breath, caught between the urge to slam the door shut and the feeble instinct to let him in. The reality of our tangled lives settled over me, threading through the very air I breathed. With an instinct I couldn't fully understand, I stepped aside, allowing him entry. As he crossed the threshold, Maya glanced at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of concern and anticipation, while Emily's expression mirrored my own. Confusion layered with a simmering fury that threatened to erupt when my father took a seat at the kitchen table, where remnants of our earlier meal remained untouched, like the emotions simmering beneath the surface. His hands fidgeted nervously, knuckles whitening as he played with his wedding ring. This small gesture, once so commonplace, felt like a talisman, now an emblem of all that he had hidden. "There's so much to explain," he said, his voice catching in his throat. "I never intended for things to get this complicated." "What do you mean?" Emily's voice held a fierce edge that juxtaposed her earlier vulnerability. "What did you do? Did you plan all of this behind our backs?" Before he could respond, I interjected, driven by the rush of anger and disbelief. "Why didn't you tell me any of this, Dad? Why keep it a secret? It hurts to learn this from Maya and not from you." He raised his gaze, and the weariness in his expression shifted, revealing something deeper, in acknowledgement of the wounds he had caused. "I thought I was protecting you both. I wanted to shield you from the truth of what was happening. Your mother's health, the issues at home with Emily. I thought if you didn't know, you wouldn't worry." "Worry?" Emily echoed incredulously. "You think putting us in the dark about our lives was protecting us? You only made it worse." Her voice quivered, raw with a mix of fury and heartbreak, yet I could see the sorrow in her eyes. "Both of you, please," he pleaded, running a hand through his hair. "I didn't envision it turning into this. I thought I could manage it until everything was stable again, but clearly I was wrong." The silence stretched uncomfortably as Emily shook her head in disbelief. "You plan to keep us apart? How do you consider that good parenting?" "I was trying to salvage everything," he said softly, his voice breaking. "I thought if I handled it on my own, if I kept things civil, kept the chaos at a distance, then maybe, just maybe, you'd both be happy." Maya's hand reached toward Emily but hesitated, sensing the storm they were in. "We need to unpack this together," she urged gently, her eyes darting from one face to another. "There's so much underlying pain here, the kind that breeds bad choices. But it's not too late." That I in that moment, everything felt on the brink of unraveling further or weaving back together. Yet as my father tried to explain his intentions, the truth felt like quicksand. The more we grasped at understanding, the more we sank beneath the weight of his words. A soft knock echoed across the kitchen walls, and I instinctively turned, hoping to find relief through a familiar face or comforting presence. But when the door opened this time, it revealed my mother, her face a portrait of fear and pleading, seemingly lost in the void of recognition. "Maya, I see you're here," she began, but her voice faded as her eyes locked with my father's. "What's going on?" A tremor coursed through the air as the four of us stood frozen in the shared silence, all the unsaid words swirling around us like a thick fog. In that moment, all sense of safety dissolved, and the lines that had once divided our world were blurred into a chaotic haze. "Mom, we need to talk," I said, the gravity of my tone slicing through the tension, but I could already feel the fear creeping back in. What more had they hidden? What else could be waiting just beneath the surface, ready to shatter whatever frail connection we had left? As she entered, the door clicked shut behind her, sealing us into the sanctum of confrontation, the air heavy with unanswered questions, shoving us closer to the precipice of this tumultuous storm. Just as we braced ourselves for the truth, a single thought threaded itself through the chaos. Whatever lay behind this whirlwind, it was only the beginning. The silence after my mother's entrance felt like a fragile glass structure, balanced on the edge of a precipice. Her eyes danced between my father and me, the confusion etched on her face a mirror of the swirling emotions in the room. "Talk? About what?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking louder might shatter the ever-thickening tension. I felt the weight of too many unsaid words pushing against my throat, Threatening to choke me. I haven't seen you for so long, she finally said, directing her gaze at my father. I thought we were working through this. I thought you were. I thought you had it under control. That I tried, he replied. His voice strained, threads of desperation weaving through his words. But it's so much more complicated than I ever thought. Maya's presence, initially a source of strength, now felt like a delicate lifeline, teetering on the brink of snapping. I could sense that her instincts were pulling her to intervene, to mediate, but in the wake of this familial storm, any attempt seemed a risk. Mom, I said, taking a step forward, my voice steady despite the tremor inside. Dad was trying to shield you, sis, from everything falling apart. But there's more to this than we know, isn't there? You two still have secrets between you. My mother's expression changed, the flicker of recognition appearing like lightning in a dark sky. Secrets? What kind of secrets? She challenged, her tone defensive. I felt the stab of pain as I realized she had no idea how deep the roots of our family's discord stretched. Before I could respond, Emily interjected with a passionate desperation. Mom, you moved back from the city, didn't you? You didn't tell us. What kind of safety net are you trying to weave here? It's all a big lie enough. My mother snapped, a flare of anger breaking through her previously stoic demeanor. You don't understand what was at stake. Do either of you? You were living your Levesto. You have any idea how hard it was for me? A wave of guilt washed over me, gnawing at my insides. Maybe she was right. Perhaps we hadn't truly grasped the struggles she faced. But didn't they owe it to us, Domito? Be honest? It was hard for all of us. I shouted, feeling the familiar pulse of rage rise within me. But you didn't give us a chance to support each other. You both kept your lives from us, expecting things to be okay, while we fell apart in silent despair. The raw truth of my words hung in the air, fluttering like a wounded bird, barely clinging to hope. My father's eyes glistened with unshed tears, while my mother's brows knitted together in anguish. Maya shifted in her seat, sensing the emotional tide rising. We can't change the past, she said softly, her voice a soothing balm against our raw edges. But we can find a way to move forward. Together. Her statement seemed to break through the walls we had built, and for a fleeting moment, connection flickered in the space between us. But just as quickly it dissipated, swallowed by the enormity of our reality. Then, a sound disrupted our fragile moment. The chiming of my phone, sharp and intrusive. I didn't want to look, but the sensation of dread settled in my stomach. I reached for it, glancing at the name that had illuminated the screen, feeling my heart stutter. It was Sarah, my closest friend from back home. I have to take this, I mumbled apologetically. It's important. Maya's right, my father said, urgency in his voice. We need to start communicating better. Don't, my mother interrupted. You are all missing the point. Decisions were made because I thought that's what was best for you. Her voice cracked, each syllable weighted with panic, and that was when I realized if she was in pain, it was rooted in secrets deeper than I had ever fathomed. The life I had lived had been strung together by choices made behind closed doors, the narrative of our family twisting into something monstrous. I stepped away and answered the call, the clarity of Sarah's voice cutting through the chaos. Hi, is everything okay? Honestly, no, she sighed. I didn't want to call and worry you, but I've heard something strange. Your mom, she's not in a good place and people are talking about some old debts resurfacing. A chill crept up my spine as I locked my gaze on my parents, who were now locked in an intense conversation of their own. Her words struck me with the force of revelation. Wait, what kinds of debts? I demanded, my pulse quickening. It's complicated, Sarah hesitated, the urgency palpable in her tone. But apparently it involves things that could change everything you thought you knew. You need to go home, like now. I hung up, heart racing, my head swimming in confusion. The specter of buried secrets loomed larger than ever, and suddenly my world felt as if it were spiraling out of control. What did she say? Emily asked, reading my expression with frantic intensity. Nothing good, I replied, the words barely a whisper. We might be in more trouble than we thought. In that moment, the electrifying tension in the room transformed into a suffocating silence, all of us awash in uncertainty. I could see the fear etched in my mother's features, the weariness etched in my father's, and in my sister's eyes, a hard edge of determination. Whatever lay ahead, we were teetering on the brink of a revelation that could either bring healing or tear us apart forever. All we had left was this precarious moment of clarity, fragile as glass, but ready to shatter. The reality of Sarah's call settled over me like a shroud, heavy and suffocating. My bedroom felt smaller, the walls seemingly closing in, reminding me of how unprepared I was for the storm brewing outside, both within our home and in the world outside. I looked around, the furniture still untouched, a static echo of my life before. Trouble? What do you mean? Maya asked, her eyes fixed on me, searching for answers I didn't have. It's nothing we can't handle, I said, trying to sound stronger than I felt. But my words rang hollow, like a brittle shell encasing my rising anxiety. Emily stood, crossing her arms tight against her chest as if trying to hold herself together. No, this is not just nothing. It sounds like something catastrophic, and we can't keep pretending everything is fine. Something is deeply wrong with Mom. Let's just figure this out, my father interjected, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his uncertainty. We can't jump to conclusions based on rumors. I'm not even sure what Sarah meant. But deep down, I felt the fissures in our family starting to splinter dangerously. Where once there had been mere disagreements, now emotions crackled in the air, the desperate, thin thread binding us unraveling. The silence that enveloped us was unsettling. My mother suddenly looked small, her shoulders slumping as if the weight of the world settled on her frail frame. Just leave it alone, she murmured, the softness of her tone laced with defeat. You don't understand what burdens I've carried. Mom, we need you to tell you everything, I pleaded, feeling a swell of adrenaline rushing through me. It's the only way we can help you. Please, the words caught in my throat like a knot tangled in frayed strings. But there it was, a flicker of vulnerability behind her guarded gaze. I wanted to shield you, she responded slowly, each word like a pebble cast into turbulent waters. To keep you from the shame, from the chaos of my mistakes. The debts, they're not mine alone. They're tied to your grandparents' decisions, things they left behind, burdens I never wanted to pass down. Each revelation felt like an avalanche crashing down upon me. I had spent my life thinking our family's history was clean, a tapestry woven from memories of resilience and shared victories. Yet here was my mother, revealing the hidden stains that could tear us apart. Does Dad know? I asked, dread pooling in my stomach as I locked eyes with him. He looked down, unable to meet my gaze, and the unspoken answer hung heavy in the air. All those years, all the challenges, my mother continued, her voice trembling. I kept it from you because it hurt too much to remember. But there are people from our past, lurking and waiting for the moment to strike, to come for what they think they're owed. The jagged edge of her truth sliced through me. The spotlight had shifted, illuminating the shadows that cloaked our family. Mom, please, Emily whispered, taking a small step toward our mother. You can't shoulder this alone anymore. We're a family, right? We need each other now more than ever. I watched as my mother's eyes shimmered with tears, and my heart cracked at the sight. It felt as if we were piecing together a puzzle that had long been buried beneath the rubble of silence. Just as I thought there was a glimmer of hope, though, I heard the creaking of the front door, jarring me from my thoughts. Moments later, it flung open, revealing a stranger, a man in a dark coat, eyes obscured by the shadows cast by an unflinching hood. Marianne, he called, his voice deep and foreboding, cutting through our fragile moment like a knife. The recognition dawning in my mother's eyes made my blood run cold. Who is that? Maya gasped, disbelief etched across her face. I could see the panic twist my mother's features as she backed away, her hands trembling at her sides. I don't owe you anything. You can't just waltz in here as if you own the place. Not yet, but you have something that belongs to me, the man replied, advancing slowly, deliberately, the tension in the air clawing at my skin. Stay back. Emily shouted, instinctively stepping in front of our mother, protective and fierce. My heart raced as I realized the weight of the moment. Our family was on the brink of exposure. The dark underbelly of our existence laid bare before this stranger. I felt the world tilt beneath me, and I wanted to scream, to fight back at the enormity of it all, but all that came out was a choked breath. We're not afraid of you. The man's lips curled into a mock smile, filled with contempt. You should be, he replied, because beneath the surface of your comfortable lives, there's a debt, one that needs settling. The room felt like it was collapsing around me, and as my mother's breath quickened, I realized in that moment that our family's secrets might consume us whole. The ragged pieces of hope I had held onto began dissolving in the wake of this revelation. a fragile glass structure shattered by the weight of truth. And standing there, pinned beneath the reality of our reckless past, I knew we were in the deepest waters yet, teetering on the edge of an abyss too dark to comprehend. The chill of the stranger's presence lingered in the air long after he had left, like a storm cloud refusing to dissipate. I stood frozen, my heart pounding against my ribcage, as each member of my family grappled with the weight of our newfound reality. What just happened? Maya whispered, her eyes darting nervously between my mother and me. The question hung there, taut with tension, like an unwelcome guest at the table. I don't know, I finally managed to utter, my voice trembling. But we need to figure this out together. If only the words could mend the fractured atmosphere. My mother, who had always been my rock, looked more fragile than ever, every crease in her face telling tales of burdens unshared. Marianne, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. This isn't how it was supposed to be. I thought I could contain it. What do you mean express it? I snapped, frustration bubbling up. Do you think this is just going to disappear if you ignore it? This man, whoever he is, he feels like a shadow creeping closer, ready to pull us into the darkness. I regretted the sharpness of my words when I saw her flinch. It was never my intention to add to her pain. I'm sorry, I said quickly, but we need the truth, all of it. You're not going to shield us from the storm anymore. The tears streamed down her cheeks, and I yearned to wipe them away, to comfort her as I had done countless times before. But how could I, when I felt such anger and betrayal boiling in my own heart? Emily stepped forward, her hand resting gently on our mother's arm. We're here for you, Mom. We'll face this together. But we need you to trust us. A profound silence filled the room before my mother nodded slowly, as if coming to terms with a painful acceptance. You're right. You deserve to know everything, even the parts one thought I could keep buried. As the weight of her words settled over us, the phone rang, slicing through the tension like a hot knife through butter. The sound filled my ears, a reminder that life continued outside of our turmoil. Who could that be? Maya asked, looking apprehensive. I'll get it, I said, trying to break the oppressive silence. I grabbed the phone, heart racing with the hope that it might be good news, a long-lost friend, or even a distraction from our reality. Hello, silence. Hello? I repeated, the hairs on the back of my neck prickling. Just as I was about to hang up, a voice crackled through the line, familiar yet jarring. Marianne, it's Sarah. Immediately my pulse quickened. After everything I'd just heard, the mere mention of her name opened a floodgate of emotions, a blend of love, frustration, and concern. Sarah, where have you been? I can only talk for a minute, she said, urgency threading through her tone. I heard about what's happening with Mom. You have to be careful, Mari. The past is coming back and it's worse than you think. My throat tightened. What do you know? There was a pause, heavy with her hesitation. There are secrets and some are deadly. I can't explain it all now, but trust me. There are people who won't stop until they get what they want, and Mom is at the center of it. Before I could process her words, a sharp knock echoed through our apartment. My heart plummeted and I shifted my gaze toward the door, fear gripping my chest. Sarah, someone's here. I have to go. No, wait, she insisted, desperation clawing through her voice. But I hung up, staring dumbfounded at the door as the knocking persisted, more insistent this time. Who is it? Emily asked, her voice trembling. That I don't know. But it's probably better if we don't answer. I hesitated, unsure of what awaited us outside that door. Yet the resolve in my mother's eyes ignited something in me. Mom, you taught us never to run from problems. We faced them together. As if the universe echoed my thoughts, the knocking stopped, replaced by the sound of a voice, calm, almost relaxed. I know you're in there. A chill traced my spine. I recognized that voice from somewhere. A haunting reminder of something I couldn't quite place. Who are you? I called, feeling my insides twist with unease. I am here to help. But first you need to let me in. For a moment, uncertainty wrapped itself tightly around us like a vice. Hope battled fear, and as I exchanged glances with my family, it became clear that the next step we took would lead us deeper into the tangled mess of our past, whether we were ready or not. As I moved toward the door, I realized that I was about to confront not only the man who threatened our peace, but also all the secrets that had festered beneath the surface. What awaited us on the other side of that threshold would alter the course of our lives forever. The air was thick with unspoken truths, and though a part of me longed to turn back, I knew there was no escaping the storm any longer. The reality of that moment weighed heavily on me as I reached for the doorknob, each heartbeat a reminder of what was at stake. I hesitated, glancing back at my family, Maya's eyes wide with fear, Emily's brows knit in concern, and my mother's expression a mixture of fear and determination. With a collective breath, we braced ourselves for whatever lay beyond the door. I turned the knob, finding it unlocked, and pulled open the door. The sight before me was both unexpected and oddly grounding. A man stood there, unassuming yet somehow familiar, his face framed by tousled hair. His warm brown eyes held a hint of recognition, though they were clouded with an urgency that sent shivers down my spine. "I know this is overwhelming," he began, his voice steady amidst the uncertainty swirling around us. "But I promise I'm not here to hurt you. My name is Daniel." "Daniel?" I echoed, confusion etched across my features. The name tugged at some distant memory, but I couldn't quite grasp it. "I was a friend of your father," he continued, glancing past me into the room, as if assessing our circumstances. "Things have spiraled out of control and I want to help." "Help?" Maya interjected, skepticism dripping from her tone. "What do you know about our family? Why should we trust you?" "It's complicated," he replied, his gaze flicking back to me. "But trust is essential now more than ever. You need to understand the gravity of the situation you're in. The man who came earlier, he's not just any stranger. He's connected to your mother's past, and his arrival means danger is closer than you realize." I swallowed hard, fear clawing its way back into my throat. "What do you mean?" Daniel hesitated, the weight of his next words heavy on his shoulders. "Your mother was involved in something she hoped would stay buried. But secrets have a way of rising to the surface." "I've heard that line before," Emily said, her voice strained. "Why should we believe you? We don't even know who you are." In that moment, as tensions flared, my mother stepped forward, the resolve in her eyes igniting that deeply rooted sense of family we'd almost lost grasp of. "I think we should listen," she said, her voice trembling but firm. "If Daniel knows anything about the past, then we have to hear him out." A deep sorrow washed over me, mingling with the anger and betrayal still simmering inside. This was no longer just about my mother's secrets. It was about the fragile web that held us together, threatened by forces I didn't fully understand. With a heavy sigh, I gestured for Daniel to enter our home. The moment he crossed the threshold, a sudden sense of vulnerability enveloped me. As he took a seat at our cluttered kitchen table, the boundaries of our normal lives felt absurdly thin, as if a gust of wind could scatter everything we knew into unrecognizable shards. "Let's start from the beginning," I urged, my voice resolute, even as uncertainty loomed over us. "Tell us about my father. What did he get involved in?" Daniel's expression shifted, a flicker of pain crossing his features. "Your father was a part of something much bigger than you can imagine. He was investigating a syndicate involved in human trafficking. It was dangerous work, and he tried to shield you all from the truth." The word struck me like a physical blow. I felt lightheaded, a mix of emotions swirling within. Memories of my father came flooding back, his laughter, his stories, his protective embrace. "He never talked about anything like that," I murmured, struggling to comprehend the violence lurking beneath the surface of our family history. "That's because he knew that knowledge comes with a cost," Daniel continued, his tone grave. "Your mother attempted to bury it to protect you. But the moment you forget your past is when it catches up to you." A heavy silence fell across the room. My thoughts whirled like a tempest, and I stole a glance at each of my family members. I could see that they were grappling with the weight of this revelation as well, the fear and disbelief etched into their expressions. "You mentioned the man, our visitor. What does he want?" Pressed, my voice stronger now, although a tremor lingered in the background. "He wants to tie up loose ends," Daniel replied, his eyes narrowing. "He believes your mother knows more than she's letting on. And if she doesn't cooperate, well, let's just say he doesn't take kindly to refusal." We all absorbed this chilling reality in silence, the enormity of it crashing over us like a wave. "So what do we do?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Daniel hesitated, visibly pained by the gravity of his own words. "We need a plan, but we also must be united. You can't afford to let fear drive you apart, Malachi. If you do, that's when hell strike." A surge of emotion coursed through me: fear, the anger, the need to protect my family. But deep down there was also a hint of determination burgeoning within, a resolve that began taking root amongst the uncertainty. Together, I echoed, glancing at Maya and Emily. We face this together. Just as I felt a flicker of hope, a loud crash resounded from the kitchen window, shattering the fragile peace. I whipped around, heart racing, my eyes locking onto the silhouette of a figure outside. My breath caught in my throat as recognition hit me like a tidal wave. It was him. The stranger from earlier, his presence crawling back into our lives like a relentless shadow. I turned back to Daniel, panic igniting my voice. What do we do now? As he opened his mouth to respond, the world outside faded into an eerie quiet, the only sound the echoing thud of my heart against my chest. We were no longer just facing the past. We were about to collide with the very real danger standing at the threshold of our home. And every second counted as I realized we were standing on the brink of a storm we could not walk away from. That storm brought with it a clarity I had yet to grasp, enveloping me in a sense of urgency. I locked eyes with Daniel, who stared back at me, alive with an intensity that reminded me how fragile our time felt. We can't let him inside, I stated, my voice steady but my heart pounding, each thump fueling the conviction swelling inside me. Right, he agreed, tension vibrating through his words. Split up. Create a distraction. It might buy us a few moments. My mind raced, weighing the risks against the desperate need to protect my family. This felt surreal and yet intimately familiar, like a childhood nightmare creeping into our reality. Emily, tell Mom to hide somewhere. I ordered urgently, darting toward the kitchen window to survey the figure outside. Its shadow loomed, and I could sense the threat in its stillness. Oh, call the police, Maya shouted, already reaching for her phone, but I didn't take my eyes off the figure. No time. We can't show weakness, we need to stand united. But before we could move, the doorbell rang, soft but insistent, fraying my nerves further. What now? Emily hissed, panic flitting across her face. Ignore it, I commanded, my words slicing through the tension like a knife. The urge to flee clashed with the resolve not to let fear control us. Our home, the safe sanctuary we once shared, was now a battleground. The figure at the window shifted closer, and I felt my heart quicken, each pulse echoing the unison of my family's pounding fears. He didn't belong here, and I wasn't ready to let our lives spiral further into the mire. Daniel moved to the door, peering through the peephole. It's him again. Listen, we have to stay cool. Whatever happens next, stay calm, he advised. Though his own voice betrayed an underlying current of worry, I nodded, my mind whirling. Above all else, we protect Mom. The reality of that singular truth anchored me, keeping my fear at bay, allowing the flames of determination to burn brighter instead. Then the voice came again, cutting through our silence. Marianne, I need to talk. Let me in. I exchanged glances with Emily. She nodded, visible defiance radiating from her small frame. What do we do? She whispered, urgency lacing her words. Stay close, I replied as I moved toward the door again, heart thumping audibly in my ears. I wanted to take control of this momento, shake things up before fear paralyzed me. My father's voice startled me. Wait! He cried, the command lodging itself in my chest. This is my fight too. The force of his desperation fanned like a flame igniting within him, lending me a spark, tumbling real passion through the fog of chaos. Dad, it's dangerous. I shot back defensively, but the look he wore held more weight than my fear could unduly dismiss. He stepped forward, fierce pride coloring his features with renewed purpose. I will not have you all risking yourselves on my account, he said, ferocity in each word, determination threading through him like steel. Without waiting for my reply, he turned toward the door. You all stay behind me. I watched in stunned silence as he opened it. The figure stood there, dark and imposing, and yet my father stood tall, a barrier between us and whatever danger loomed beyond. Go. He said firmly, eyes roiling with courage. You don't want this. And as if my father's words propelled the world forward, I braced myself for what came next, a gasp, a clarity birthing between us, revealing a poignant truth. Maybe this was the moment we had been waiting for. The passageway into something new and unexpected. The man's voice came through again, dark and steady. You think you can keep them from me, John? You think this will end well? Whatever you're after, my father countered, you won't bring it here. With that, I felt a liminal space open in the air. Each of us drew closer, An unbreakable circle. Our hands clasped tightly, claim reinforcing bond, and I realized that the heart of our family was anchored in the trust we'd forgotten but could still reclaim. You've got more people watching your back than you think, Daniel spoke firmly, moving next to my father's eyes, shrouded with resolute defiance. You're not getting through without a fight. I had seen shadows flicker across my father's expression, the fear and conviction, yet in this moment, those shadows began to lift, illuminating a shared resilience. Sarah's warning echoed behind my mind, rooting me in all that we had faced, each wound of love, loss, and ultimately healing intertwined in this tumultuous landscape we called home. Give it another try, my father said, steeling himself. Tell me what you want. Let's make a deal, the man responded, his voice slicing through the tension. You protect them, I'll leave them out of this mess. In that pivotal moment, fear grappled with hard-earned resolve. The man's eyes darted between us like an untrustworthy ally, but with my family surrounding me, fear transformed into hope, blooming amidst that heavy uncertainty. As I surged over the threshold of doubt, the fractured pieces of my parenting began stitching together into something uniquely beautiful. No, I said firmly, surprising even myself. We're not going to play these games anymore. This is our life and we will fight for each other. This declaration hung in the air, charged and electrifying, reverberating between USA promise to reclaim our narrative, to be fierce against unyielding forces, reminding us that love doesn't just endure. It thrives through chaos. Through unspeakable darkness, a flicker of unity shone brightly. Without knowing how, we'd unknowingly transformed the struggle into something great, a manifestation of our trust. The amalgamation of our individual scars birthed into a collective power against any storm. We faced this together. I breathed, breath hitching as I looked each family member in the eye, locking that powerful resolve. Whatever comes next, we can write our story. And just as the shadows threatened to swallow us whole, a dawning realization bathed us, a belief as strong as the rising sun breaking through dawn. Love might bend, but it never loses its faith. The tides would change, and even amidst darkness, we emerged fuller, determined. Your dead is with us now. My father's voice rang clear, drowning out the echoes of fear. With that single moment, I grasped whatever frail cords of affection we had left, pulling tightly against the pull of divergencia, tight-knit snare woven together by passion. In that bittersweet instant, I recognized the intensity of longing to protect this beautiful, flawed life of ours, knowing that this was forever our pivotal moment of courage. And standing there, emboldened against the encroaching shadows, I realized that true family endures, resists, and fiercely fights for another. Each step forward together forged the path for healing, and in the heart of the storm, I whispered into the empty air, the warmth of belief enveloping us all. We are enough. Always.